All right, recording, and because we don't know how much storage is on there, let's go stopwatch. Start. Cool.
Cool.
What are we gonna call it? The Two Strong Dudes Show?
Or Two Strong Dudes Show?
Two Strong.
The
Show or podcast?
What do you think?
Kind of like show.
I do too.
Yeah.
The Two Strong Dudes Show.
The Two Strong Dudes. Welcome to the Two Strong Dudes Show.
I'm one strong dude. This is another strong.
Another strong dude. Sometimes we're going to be joined by more strong dudes. Actually, we were just talking to Jason. Honestly, he fits right in here. He's awesome.
Yeah, he seems really legit.
I know the first day, and he's probably going to listen to this too. The first day he showed up in here, he had Hey Brand shorts and a Ward Druin shirt. I was like, welcome to your gym.
Yeah, you found it.
Yeah.
You found your crew.
Yes. Majority of people that are going to listen to this probably already know about the gym. But on that note, what is it? Chase. Crossfit Colorado Springs.
Yes.
Did you hear what he said about the gym?
No.
He said this is the metal brother to CrossFit Colorado Springs.
Makes sense.
It's all black.
It's all blacked out. Yeah.
You know what else I've noticed is most people show up here wearing black now.
I have noticed that.
Yeah. People that don't normally wear black show up and they're wearing black.
Yeah. It's a thing.
Yeah. I think when you paint the gym black, it makes a statement.
It definitely makes a statement.
Yeah. So let's just kind of kick off. We were talking earlier about how I just wanted this to be super informal.
Yep. Just two dudes talking.
Because it's the first one, let's introduce ourselves.
Okay.
I know kind of about your background. I actually don't know all of it.
Okay.
Except when you share a picture from like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Like your skinny,
Super
no muscle
tiny
brother.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm well, you're still what, 6'3".
6'3".
So there's still some muscle.
There's still some.
Is CrossFit how you started?
So actually, no. I would say your traditional high school bodybuilding, watching Arnold, reading Muscle and Fitness and Flex, and worked out at 24 Hour off of Southgate for years. And then during high school, worked out at the Y, just doing the bodybuilding hypertrophy thing. And then,
So like bro splits.
Yeah, just a lot of chest, a lot of biceps.
You learn so much doing that.
You do.
I honestly, like when people find strength through CrossFit, I'm like, okay, great, but I wish you had just like fucked up for like 10 years.
Yes.
And figured it out.
Yes.
Like, I used to spend hours at night just reading T Nation and bar bend and breaking muscle and just learning things from like Dan John and TC Loma and then you just mess up and you do things wrong.
Right.
And that's a great way to start, I think.
It is. It really is. And after high school, I got into construction just immediately right after high school, and worked for my dad doing concrete. So that was a lot of intense labor. I did that for about 2 years, and then I got into an excavating company. So I was actually in ditches shoveling, and then.
Were you working out?
And I was still working out. So what I would do is we would go to the gym at 4. Mm-hmm. We would take No Explode, get the bubble guts, get our pump on, and then go work all day. And it was funny, like I couldn't imagine doing that right now. But it was awesome. And
that's back when No Explode used to have, what was the ingredient they got rid of?
Because I was saying, I know ephedra was one of them that got banned, which that was a good one.
Because it worked, Jack 3D.
Jack 3D.
I used to work for a supplement shop years ago.
Yeah.
And the owner, Jim, had like the last remaining unopened Jack 3D, like as a trophy in his office.
Absolutely.
Like still like ephedra. He's like, one day we're gonna break that thing open and just like PR everything.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what the other stuff in that was.
I feel like my heart would stop now.
100%. Yeah. But back in the day, 3 scoops in full send.
No water.
And then I was gonna say there was I'm trying to remember actually the name of the CrossFit gym. My buddy Cody went to the CrossFit gym that was in that really small garage off of Colorado Avenue. I think it was Colorado Springs CrossFit. Don't quote me.
Maybe because they closed.
So they closed, and then I know they moved out east. But yeah, Cody he started on CrossFit at CrossFit SoCo 1 way back in the day, and I really got into that for a while because I liked the concept of the functional fitness, the varied movements all the time. Is that
Cody Jameson?
No, Cody Chamberlain.
Oh, okay.
And then did SoCo for a while. Kind of bounced around a little bit. Was trying to find at the time, I would say, like my thing that made me happy. So I went to Progressive, went to 719 for a little bit. Kind of just did the travel and nomad CrossFit thing.
Yeah.
And then got into the National Guard and went infantry and got out basically. As soon as I got back, it was really funny. I was very sad at my strength when I got back from basically I had an 11:52 mile was my fastest 2 mile.
Man.
But I couldn't pick up over 350. And it's
like sub 6 minutes.
Sub 6 minute miles.
Consecutive miles.
Yep. And I was super fast. I could ruck.
What did you weigh?
I got out of base, I got 199 pounds.
What do you weigh now?
276 pounds this morning. It's wild.
Yeah. Almost 80, that's like another human.
Yeah.
Or another human.
Well, and I want to say, when I got out of the National Guard, I want to say I weighed 235. I was like 235, so even just putting on the 50 pounds or 45 pounds to get me here, it's been a journey.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I would say like even like when I was doing CrossFit, the strength days are always the ones that pulled me in the most. Like when one of the gyms would get a yoke or an apple stone, like that's really what got me excited on strength. And I think it boiled back to, I'd say that childhood of, I grew up very typical of certain kids. Of my dad would take me to Mother Buffs and he would watch the Bronco game, and on one of the channels they had ESPN's World's Strongest Man, and I grew up watching that, and grew up in the lovely 80s with the Arnolds and the Stallones and the Van Dams and the Dolph Lundgrens, and you just don't see that anymore. Not to go down that rabbit hole, but like you just like those dudes. We've
go down that rabbit hole.
Their training montages were phenomenal.
Yeah.
And like, those kind of workouts got me motivated. World's Strongest Man had me motivated, and it's always one of those things. I loved strength. Just loved the idea of strength, and I played football in high school, and I really liked power cleans. Some of those explosive hammer machines that they have. Like just that explosive strength is always something that appealed. And then I got out, and then. I immediately was like, a lifetime goal of mine's always been to do strongman, and ended up getting in touch with Kevin at SoCo and just kind of reaching out to a couple different people because I had no idea how to even start that route of strongman. And actually, Kevin turned me on to you and was like, "Hey, Ryan used to do strongman. I think he'd be a phenomenal coach," and hooked up with you for the first one. Been just great ever since.
Thrown down. Yeah. And what's funny? I don't know if I ever told you this either. When you reached out to me to help you learn some of the implements, I was deep into endurance. Yeah. And I had a huge background in strength prior to that. And I just went down this other rabbit hole for a year and a half. Yeah. Of ultra running and mega long bike rides and Spartan racing. And then that year I had a Spartan that year. And then I think it was springtime I started working with you, and then you had a strongman competition. Yep. And that actually gave you the bug back.
Did it really?
Working with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and seeing trying to show you the implements and this and that. Yeah. And I was like, I gotta do this again. And then that year we went to rifle.
And then we went to rifle.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so it's amazing how quickly you can turn around.
It is. Well, I think that's the nice thing about kind of what we have going here is that unicorn of, I think not everything is a linear progressive. I think it's a bell curve in a sense of I feel like, there's times that I get done with a comp and I'm like, you know what? I didn't like the way that I performed metabolically in that comp, and I want to lose some weight and get some metabolic conditioning back in my life. And then there's other times where I'm deep into my metabolic series. I'm like, okay, I need to do some 5x5. I'm getting burnt out on endurance stuff. So I definitely think the come and going of strength and endurance is absolutely what makes this.
And I also love when you get back to the point where a 5x5 works again.
Yes.
Because sometimes I get you get so far down the rabbit hole where you're on strength, you're doing speed days and heavy days and volume days and accessory work, and you're fighting for every last inch.
Right.
And it's great. Your PRs are there, and you're your top end strength you've ever been. Mm-hmm. Body hurts. And then you do something different for a while.
Yes.
For me, it was travel and move and help with the CrossFit gym and job out there and come here and start this.
Right.
And now I'm back in that place where simple works again.
It does.
And it's amazing because I've been training for 20 years. And all of a sudden I come back and I want to do 5x5 and do heavy set of 3. And the expectation is out there. It's so nice.
And it feels good.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've been on this journey to try to get my squat back.
Yeah.
So I hit 500 that year, and I want 505 by the end of October and 365 bench by the end of October.
And what'd you pull? What was your deadlift?
615. 615. Yeah. So that was the year I turned 35. And this year I turned 37. And I refuse to go silently into that good night. That.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, Father Time catches us, but not today.
So I don't know. I'm just gonna. I think if I take a long enough runway, I can get there.
Oh, I absolutely.
But the point of that is, I'm using 405 as a training max for my squat right now.
Absolutely.
And it feels so good.
Yeah.
Because my 3 rep max was 365.
Sure.
And it felt great because I knew I could move it. And there was no like, I gotta squat 480 today for a single. Like,
there's no pressure.
Exactly.
You don't have to put that pressure on yourself. And I think that's, once you get to that level too, that's the best thing you can do for yourself. Again, it was one of those things I was really struggling with lately. I've got a comp coming up, and I was looking at a lot of other dudes on Instagram that I'm going up against, and I put myself in check of like, they're at a different level than I am, and I just need to run my race. Like, you have to squat when you're squatting.
Yeah.
You can't.
Is your squat in your comp?
No. What do I got for brand?
Is this Colorado Strongest?
So basically, I've got 2 back-to-back. I've got Colorado Strongest, which shout out to Brando. Really excited. It's going to be a great event. CrossFit Rail Stock. Putting it on.
What's the date? When is it?
August. Don't quote me. August 12th. August 12th. It's a Saturday. August 12th. We'll throw it up.
I think I'm here.
But really good mix of events. I feel like we've got a max effort log, which he really went out of his way to build some really cool, actual legit logs. So I'm really excited about that. And even though Preston's not my jam, like, I'm really excited to play with those. Yeah. He's got a head-to-head deadlift for reps, which I'm really excited about. It's 575 for what I have to pull for reps.
Standard deadlift bar?
Standard deadlift bar.
Yeah.
Excited.
Can't get some like wagon wheels or something?
I wish. Oh my gosh.
18-inch deadlift.
He's got a head-to-head frame carry, which I'm pretty excited about. I really like frames, like grip frame. Like, when you and I first started training together, just, the ideology of you just never can go wrong training grip has transferred very well. Like, I love anything with grip.
Yeah.
So he's got a frame, and I want to say mine's 600, so it's still heavy but manageable.
Yeah, because you were what, 315 a hand?
Yeah, pretty consistently.
Yeah.
Yep. And then a pretty heavy Husafeld carry, again, head-to-head race. I think it's don't quote me, it's like 380 or 360. It's one of the heaviest Husafelds I've ever played with. I'm really excited about that. Nice. And they've got a stone, a different height level on the stones, which I love stones.
Yeah, they're doing like Pikes Peak.
Yep, Pikes Peak thing, so I'm really excited about that.
Anytime you mention like a carry, I think I throw up a little bit in my mouth.
Oh yeah.
I just can't. Like, I think Rifle wrecked me for that.
Oh, that
stone carry.
Man, that stone carry was.
It was just like a puking cat for a minute straight.
Oh yeah.
Just walking around, and then you would sit, and you can't breathe. No, it's miserable.
Yeah,
miserable. I think it was like a 250 stone.
And it was so heavy.
Yeah, it was a heavy.
No tack. I remember that one. That to me was the kicker. Was like no tack, no grip shirt, grip it and rip it.
Yeah, it sucked. Yeah, carries I think are probably one of my least favorite things.
It's funny, when I first got into this, they were my favorites, and now it's almost, I've had a weird 180 where I actually enjoy either just explosiveness where I'm standing, or even like the static, and medleys don't feel good anymore now that I've gotten bigger.
Yeah. I used to like, my second competition was it was 10th Mountain Division.
Oh yeah.
Actually sponsored by 10th Mountain Division upstate New York, Fort Drum.
Oh, a drum, yeah. Nice.
And my friend John and I did it.
Yep.
And I cut down to 204.
Oh.
Yeah, I was 204. So I was walking around. This was the first time I started in Britain.
Yeah.
And I walked around at 220. You know, same relative leanness, but like 10 pounds lighter.
Just 10 pounds lighter. Yep.
And she was doing bodybuilding shows.
Oh, I didn't know Brittany was in the bodybuilding shows. Oh,
yeah, she was in the fitness category. She had just come off of one. She still had spray tan on her first date.
Really?
Yeah, like it still had. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
So she was going. Then she started training for another one, and she got me in counting macros.
Oh,
so nutritionally, this was before that fitness pal. We would have a notebook, and we would actually weigh and measure everything.
Jam everything.
We just Google how many macros of a banana, and we had our macro goals at the top. Yep. We were just adding on our calculator and our phone. Wow. And I remember the first week we started dating, she got me into that, and then I realized that maybe I can do weight.
Maybe cut weight, yeah.
Because I was trying to go a weight class above.
Sure.
And we had like maybe 4 or 5 more weeks till this college. She showed me how to track macros. And then she bought me a king size Twix bar because I was so clean. I had 0 sweet tooth, nothing. Okay. I was like paleo, everything.
Oh yeah.
Like, the CrossFit space.
Yeah.
And she bought me a king size Twix bar, and she said, put this on your macros and count it now, and then just backfill everything you eat today, and then tonight pull it out of the freezer and eat it.
Really?
Yeah. And it's been game over. Now I'll crush like a half gallon of ice cream.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I walk deep down that road.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
brutal.
Yeah, she's the one who taught me to do that.
That's super cool. I didn't know where the counting back. Oh, and paleo. That's a name I haven't heard. Does anyone still do paleo?
You know, I was thinking about paleo, and I think yes, because we got back to paleo in this like weird roundabout because it was keto and then it was carnivore.
Yes.
And then they were like, well, maybe we need fruit.
Right.
So like paleo without veggies is what like Joe Salatino.
Yes.
Like, I'm pretty sure that's what everybody's doing now.
And this is what it seems like.
Meat and fruit is pretty much paleo.
It's pretty much paleo.
I mean, minus like a sweet potato or something.
Right.
You know?
That's so funny how that came full circle. God, I remember when CrossFit hopped on that train real hard for a while.
My first, I'll give you a quick like how I came up.
Oh yeah.
We're going to take a break at probably another 10 minutes. So yeah, we'll go through this.
Yep.
Then we'll take a quick break to make sure that our camera has
We're still going.
Maybe record the second half with the phone. We'll see.
Yeah.
First episode problems.
Right.
I did what you did. So bro splits, bodybuilding. I played football, but like upstate New York football is not like out west football.
Oh,
sure.
sure.
Football.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
we had a preacher curl, and like that's what we did. Preacher curl. Everybody wanted to make the 200 club for bench press.
Absolutely.
That was it. I never squatted. We never squatted. It wasn't a thing. There was no power cleans. There was no squats. It was unheard of.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And like we didn't have a coach in the weight room. They were like, we want you guys to go to the weight room.
Gotcha.
Go ahead. Doors open. That was it. So, you know, like big arms. That's all we want.
That's all you wanted. Yeah.
So then I went away to college, and that's all I continued. Got real fat, partied.
I saw your glow up picture. Didn't even recognize you.
It was awesome. I had the bowl cut in there too. I can't.
Yeah.
One of my wife went right back.
Do it.
Bowl cut.
Power move.
Right.
I mean, you're married. What you gonna do?
You're stuck with the bowl cut.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're committed.
So I got kicked out of college because I went deep down the hole of partying.
Yep.
And I had 4 years of fun in 2 semesters, they said, and
Yep.
you didn't come back.
Yes.
So squandered that whole thing, had a full ride gone.
Yep.
Went back to community college.
Okay.
Still like doing some bro stuff here and there, like no real work ethic. Still like drinking a lot.
Yep.
Late teens, early 20s.
Oh yeah.
And then I stopped going to that school too. And I needed a job, so I started working manual labor. And I remember the switch was, I was doing disaster restoration. So
Yes.
like, we would have to go to houses that caught on fire.
Yep.
And we were way out in the middle of East nowhere. And normally we would go get pizza, we'd go get McDonald's, whatever for lunch, and there was nothing, so we had to start bringing lunch.
Sure.
And I was like, I don't know, I'd make a sandwich or something. So I was making some sandwiches, and all of a sudden by the end of the week, me and my buddy Trevor Keller, which I'm going to send this to him as a name from the past, I'll tell you about it. We were like, we feel better.
Yeah.
Like, this is weird. We have more energy, we're not lethargic after lunch.
Right.
It started this whole other turn. And then me and my buddy Timmy that I was working with there, we were like, let's go to Planet Fitness.
Yeah.
So we started going to Planet Fitness every day. And then all of a sudden the weight just started coming off. And I got lean again. And it was still Planet Fitness bro splits.
Right.
But then I started reading stuff like T Nation.
Yeah.
Just like every article I could find. Like, I don't even think YouTube was huge yet.
No, not
So it
really.
was just articles.
Yep.
Bar bend, breaking muscle. It was just all over those websites.
Yeah.
And then, so I go into the gym and I start building these circuits where like, I'm doing like presses, and then I'm doing this, and then like basically doing kind of what CrossFit did.
Yeah.
This is probably 2008, 2009,
No.
which there was CrossFit, I just
So I
didn't
would
know
say
of
it just
it.
wasn't know of it. Yeah.
And then changed jobs and started working as a custodian for like a really like Ivy League expensive school.
Yep.
Their weight room, phenomenal.
Oh.
Their weight coach was like, I don't know if Conjugate, was
Yeah.
West Side, so there was bars and chains and like
all that.
everything,
Yeah.
bands, and so I started going in there, and that's when I found Jim Wendler, 531.
531.
531, and I was like, I don't care how big I get, I just want to be able to like wrestle a bear and drag this thing out, and everything
Yes.
changed. And I was on their football field on Sundays, pushing sleds,
Yeah.
flipping tires.
Yep.
Me and my buddy started doing caveman training, throwing logs.
Yeah.
And that's when we found CrossFit.
Okay.
I was like, it looks like what we're doing.
Right.
Looks like that. So got into that, drank too much of the Kool-Aid. Got,
I think we all
start Kool-Aid.
Oh yeah.
CrossFit.
If you CrossFit, you drink all the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, especially like 2012.
Oh yeah. Rich Froning type.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I was on YouTube, and then I'm watching like, this is a legit thing. People do this all, I'm watching
Right.
CrossFit, but it's still like, at this time, I was probably 205, 210.
So in CrossFit, you're still a big dude.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I remember thinking, I was like, when is back day?
Right?
Right, so like I would stay after.
Every day was
kettlebell
like
rows. I'm like, yeah. Oh, so before I started CrossFit, I benched 300 pounds one
Okay.
time. That was my lifetime PR.
Sure.
Squatted 250.
Okay.
right? 2 years into CrossFit, I couldn't bench 275.
No.
Went away, and my squat went to like high threes.
Absolutely.
And it just flip-flop. It was
Flip-flop,
crazy. Yeah,
yes.
leg stuff. And then there was a guy, Chico. He's a lawyer, but he's built for powerlifting. And he was doing CrossFit too, and he like hurt his leg or something. And John, the owner, was like, "You should do a bench competition. You're pretty good at benching."
Yeah.
I was like, "You got like a over 300 whatever pound bench," and now it's him and Dan Green at the top.
Yeah. Dan Green's.
He's like in the animal cage. Now, Chico isn't like
straight
he's
up
top of the country,
top
right?
dog. Yep.
And just like went that route, blew up.
Yeah.
Now he's got like a 560 bench and like a 700 squat, like crazy.
Just crazy numbers.
And so when that all started, and then I was like, let's ride the strength training.
Yeah.
So we got some stone molds. We made some stones.
Yep.
Found a little strongman competition.
Right.
And I wasn't even dating Brittany yet, but like we knew each other. We had exchanged numbers.
Yes.
And I had just gotten out of a long-term relationship, and like I texted her, and she was like, "Good luck." She was the first person I texted.
Really?
I took second.
Okay.
My first one ever. I remember there was tacky on the stone. I think I told you this. My first introduction to tacky.
Yes.
It was just on the stone. Somebody had used it. It was
Right.
a 180 stone.
Sure.
And now we're like, oh, what is it? Like at then I was like, I got a 180-pound rock.
This is going to be brutal.
Yeah. But there was tacky on it. I was like, oh, this is easy. It stuck to me. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. So I ended up taking second in that one. And then like that was the bug. That was it.
Yep.
I got my CrossFit Strongman specialty certification before I got my level 1. I went to, it was like Rochester, New York.
Sure.
And they just run one there. And Rob Orlando wasn't there. Somebody
At that time.
Yeah.
Right.
And then got my level 1, started coaching CrossFit.
Yep.
And then reached out to Rob Orlando, and I was like, "Hello, Mr. Orlando, and this really great. Like I followed for a long time. I really appreciate what you do, and you brought this and that. And
yes.
I would love to how can I get involved with CrossFit Strongman because I believe in the methodology."
Absolutely.
And he emailed me back, and he was like, "I get these messages all the time, but yours was grammatically correct. You were polite, used good punctuation. Can you come to the state and be an assistant?"
Really?
And I was like, I'm going. So went down, bought a go fuck yourself shirt from him and wore it. And,
yes.
And I wasn't technically working for that. I didn't get paid to do it.
Sure.
I drove probably 4 hours to go there. I didn't care.
No. And to get that experience.
And I got to be his assistant.
Oh.
At his gym. And it was so cool. I was starstruck, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And Rob Orlando.
Straight fanboy.
Helping people learn stones and learn this and that.
Yes.
And I got more out of that seminar than I did when I took the actual one.
I bet.
Because he reframed, and this is actually, I don't think we talked about this yet, but I'm going to tell you here, we're recording it. The whole idea of CrossFit Strongman doesn't have to be CrossFit. It's the whole idea of using Strongman implements in a functional fitness pattern.
Absolutely.
And the more I get thinking about it, especially when we taught people stones at Trinity,
yes,
which shout out to you guys at Trinity, amazing event.
Phenomenal event.
It was so cool, dude. Just
so gratifying.
Teaching people who would look at this big rock and be like, can I even lift this thing?
I'm terrified to look at.
And then all of a sudden they were like,
it's going up.
Let's go for 145, let's go for 175. It was incredible.
Yes.
And overcoming fears. And that's, I think, the thing about strongman implements. You don't have to train and compete in strongman.
Nope, not.
Rose. I love Rose's journey.
Absolutely.
Because she was like, I never thought I'd be the person to even touch a tire. And now at the end of class, she's like, I'm going to flip the tire a bunch.
Yeah.
She's flipping the tire. Her and her husband, Scott, are out there stretching. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yes.
Scott said, I never thought I would join a gym. Don't ever close because I'll never join another one.
Nope.
Yeah. And it's just so different what we do here. So that's kind of what I was really thinking. As we hone this, programming and model, really, what is our elevator pitch and what makes us different?
Yes.
It's strongman fit, basically.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if that's kind of a corny word for it,
but I like it.
It's I want more stones, more sandbags,
yes,
more log, more yoke. But it's not necessarily you don't have to move a 700-pound yoke. You don't have to pick up a 300-pound stone.
Nope.
Just the idea of overcoming the fear of moving something that makes you feel absolutely savage for doing it.
Yes.
Versus an air-conditioned gym, or even, and this is some people's bag, and that's great. But for me, 21-15-9 with a light barbell and bodyweight movements, it's not for me.
It's not, and I completely agree. Because I think you lose. I think with the 21-15-9, I think you lose the ideology behind it of all you're doing is high intensity. You're not necessarily caring about the quality at that point. And I feel with Strongman Fit or the Strongman implements, those I still feel you find more in your daily activities than you ever will anything else. And because again, I feel if you're picking up a kid to go put them in a car seat. That's a bear hug. And if they're fighting you, get in that car
just
seat.
carrying the one.
Yes.
Yeah, we're trying not to. Yeah.
And I mean, a suitcase deadlift mimics exactly you holding a toddler with some groceries. Like suitcase deadlift in real life, right there.
And you know what else? Like, because I'm doing that right now.
Yeah.
Brita. I almost said Hadley. Brita's 7 months old.
Well, Hadley still
mix up their names all the time. So I think as they get older. Brita being 7 months old, and like I was carrying the car seat, I had the bag, and then I got groceries, and I bought an air conditioner, so I'm like, how am I going to get this in?
Right.
And then like you get that panic mode, but then you're like, I've been in this position before.
Yeah.
Like, I had a heavy sandbag. I had this. I had to figure it. And then you just like, all right, take a breath and figure it out. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You know? Randy always says, figure it out. Figure it out.
Figure it out.
Yeah. So,
I mean, if you've ever changed the tire, I mean, that is the most awkward thing to pick, especially on a truck, like to pick that tire up awkwardly and line it up with the lug nuts. And I mean, it's just, I feel like you run into strongman type movements.
how about this? When you change the tire, it's never in great conditions.
God, no.
I stopped to help this lady last winter in upstate New York, and slush, snow, disgusting. I pulled in front of her. She's like, I'm waiting for AAA or half hour. She's got 3 kids in the car. So I'm like, let's just change it now.
Let's
just do it.
Yep.
And like in the dirt, in the snow, messy, like I'm in good clothes.
Right.
But like that happens in strongman too.
Absolutely.
I mean, how often are we flipping the tire and you just got this like black all over your biceps and this, I think there's a lot to be said for just the ruggedness in getting dirty while training, being messy, scraping your fingers, like abrasions on your forearms from the stones. Teaches you a ton.
You know, the funny thing too is even just like gear shift back to the Army, like when I was in, day one drove me insane with the APFT that somehow you're going to quantify someone's level of fitness by doing 2 minutes of push-ups, sit-ups, and a 2-mile run, and somehow that qualifies you, right, whether you're fit or not. And then it's funny, like the year that I got out, they were switching to the ACFT, which was like a plethora of strongman movements. So it starts off with a trap bar deadlift, a heavy triple.
Yeah.
Right on. That makes perfect sense. Then you have like a sprint drag sled carry. So you're literally farmer carrying something down, you're dragging a sled backwards, and you're sprinting.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, and even, I mean, just everything they had in the ACFT, I was like, right on. Like, this is CrossFit and strongman. And again, I feel like now the military has a quantifiable thing.
I feel like they kind of followed like the CPAP.
Absolutely.
For fire. Because fire has always been that way. You
Yes.
know, taking the CPAP a few times, mostly because I loved it.
Right.
Fun. But it's like sledgehammer, weighted vest walks, farmer's carries.
Heavy ladder.
Yep. Listen, let's check and see.
Let's make sure
27 minutes or so.
Make sure it's recording.
Take a quick break. I have no idea what we're going to put in the middle, so maybe you'll see a picture of cats. I don't know.
Who knows?
And then we'll come back and we'll talk about, actually, you know what I want to pick up when we come back? I had it. What was it going to be? I don't know. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Recording. And we're back.
And we have a goat patch.
It's important to get the beer opening sound.
That's right.
Yeah.
No other sound like it.
I don't know how long of a break we're going to put in when we do like the editing process.
Sure.
But we'll make it seem super quick. It actually took a while to get this.
How
We are drinking a Goat Patch Cantaloupe Gose. If you guys didn't know, Goat Patch is in the same building as this gym, and we're a different kind of gym where we bring kegs to events.
Sure.
And not just the kind that we pick up and throw out and carry. Cheers, buddy.
Skull. All right. So I had a couple questions from people online.
Sweet. What do we got?
So it's gonna be quick fire.
Okay. You want me to answer quick too?
Sure.
Like no thought, just like first thing that pops in my mind?
Ooh, I like that.
Like 10 seconds per?
10 seconds per.
Okay.
Best injury prevention.
Listen to your body, don't be dumb.
I like that.
We can go into depth on what that means, but
How do you feel about warm-ups?
hate them. We'll go into depth on that one after too.
Favorite strongman movement?
Deadlift. Yeah. Deadlift.
Those were the quick
Yeah,
fire
those are good.
ones.
Let's get into the warm-up one.
Ooh, I like that.
We have warm-ups in.
I hate warm-ups too.
Here's the warm-up on the board. And if I had to put a time stamp, this is a longer warm-up. 10 lunges, that's body weight. That takes all of like 15 seconds.
Okay.
10 lunges, 10 pull-aparts, 5 suitcase deadlift per side, and an empty sled push.
Okay.
4 times through. Should take 8 minutes.
I like that. Actually,
8 minutes.
that's not a bad warm-up actually.
Because if you got any soreness from earlier this week, which everybody did, we squatted heavy this week. It was a running, basically it was a 5K run, 100 pull-ups, broken up into 10 rounds. And then, lunges, break that up, pull aparts, warm up your back a little bit. Suitcase deadlifts, hey, you picked up something heavy a little bit.
Yep.
And then sled push just kind of keeps you athletic.
Get some blood pump.
And then really, like an extended warm up, 15 minutes into class, you should be 2 sets into the deadlift.
Absolutely.
I can't stand, I don't know.
I know.
I'm going to be 37. And I've been through my share of injuries.
Yep.
Knee surgery, I got a piece floating around in there right now. I torn labrum on the right side. I got what they call weightlifter shoulder on the other, whatever.
Yep.
And I'm still moving weight. I'm still doing
Oh,
it.
yeah.
And unless it's like 20 degrees outside, and I physically need to get warm, that's what a warm-up should do, right?
Absolutely.
Like just warm you up.
Right.
Like you can just do 100 jumper jacks and you're warm.
100%. And
then the rest of it happens in what you're doing.
Yes.
If I'm squatting, like what I benched the other day when you were here doing the yoke runs.
Yeah.
You know how I warmed up on the bench? I took an empty bar bench and did 50 reps.
Right.
All right, I'm pretty warm.
Chest is warm, shoulders are warm.
135 for 20, 185 for 10, 225 for 8. I'm pretty warm.
Yes.
Now I get into my working sets.
Right.
That's it.
Yes. That was some philosophy I took away from Joey Sazin was, warm up smarter. Because I feel like, I mean, you probably feel the same way. That was one thing, not to like bag on CrossFit. That was one thing that just turned me off of CrossFit was those just super elaborately long warm-ups. And, I think the best thing for us about getting older is listening to your body. And I feel like there's certain days that you need a longer warm-up depending on what you got going on. And there's other days you walk in and your warm-up can be, shorter depending on how your body's feeling. And I just...
And what you're going to do for the day.
Absolutely.
10 rounds, 500-meter run, 10 pull-ups, 10 sit-ups. You know what the warm-up was? Get your shit out.
And go.
And then go for a 500-meter run. Round 1, you come back, all right, I'm pretty warm.
I'm pretty
ready
warm.
to do some pull-ups.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe you hang from the bar once or twice. Or
right,
something.
just gotta get some spine,
whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, that feels good. Okay, let's go. That's it.
Dude, I think one of the things that, you had programmed for me early on that I have absolutely taken to the bank as a staple is pull-aparts.
Oh, dude.
I love them.
People are starting to realize in here that they're getting like operations inside their head. Yeah. Well, like somebody said to me, 3 people this week were like, I got this sore inside my hand and realizing it's from pull-aparts.
Band pull-aparts.
Ton of them.
But they're so beneficial.
I think you're right. If there's anything, I don't think there's anything we do more consistent than pull-aparts.
I agree. Well, and it's funny because I look at CrossFit, I think one of the most things you do all the time is a PVC pass-through. And I feel like for us, it's a band pull-apart.
Yeah.
Like and I think, you were explaining that like in our day and age that most people sit like this or sit like this, and that pull apart just really helps open everything up top. And man, I love them. I do them every day. Even if I'm squatting, I'm still doing pull ups.
Oh, yes. I love it because upper back in between squats reminds you to like build your traps.
Absolutely.
Get something to put that bar on.
Yes.
I can't take credit for it. I mean, as with any great advice, you take it from somebody else and you claim it as your own.
Yes.
I think I got it from Zach Evanesh.
Sure.
If anybody knows Zach Evanesh, he's phenomenal. Like he's been in the game, like training at the top level for over 20 years.
Yep.
Lehigh University, Rutgers wrestling, like top athletes. He's got this kick-ass gym in Manasquan, New Jersey.
Okay.
And I went there 5 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
And I met some great people that I'm still in contact with to this day. James Harble, he had a gym in Ohio called Shelton City Strength, trained high schoolers.
Okay.
We parked at his house and stayed there for a week when we lived out of camper.
Oh, right on.
Jeff Crable, I met him in his 50s doing walking on chain link fences in New Jersey. He was at this seminar also. American Ninja Warrior competitor, just as rugged in his 50s, like ripped, mohawk, all this.
Oh, yeah.
And then he came up to upstate New York because we kept in contact, and him and I put on, you're going to love this, ready? So we put on a seminar on how to train like us.
Oh, really?
A joint seminar. We taught stone lifting. Him and I lifted stones, this and that. And typically a Saturday morning at a CrossFit workout, CrossFit's so structured.
It is.
Like it's the unknown and the unknowable, but like you're looking at Wodify or whatever before you come in.
Planning what you
People
do.
lost their shit with him.
Oh,
because he was like, I'm gonna make this up as we go.
Yeah.
And nobody knew what they were doing. He had people doing bear crawls in the grass and the dirt outside and balancing and coming in. And like people were like, this is fucking, people were losing their shit.
I bet.
And then owner John.
Yeah.
John's great. He was like, you want to be tough, do it. And he just had Jeff's back.
There you go.
It was phenomenal. It was like one of the best days, hands down, of training.
I bet.
Because people were just like, they're like, we gotta do sit-ups in the grass. I got my good gym clothes on. And kind of what we were talking about, like the getting dirty thing.
Dude.
And Jeff had that. Well, I met him at Zach's. I'm going way down a rabbit hole here.
No, yeah.
Zach Avanesh is notorious for this like rugged, just get out there, like
get comfortable. Being uncomfortable is one of the
so good.
It's one of the best things you can do. And I'll tell you, for me, like that is one of the best things the military ever taught me. Was, I mean, we did PT, in very bad conditions and nobody cared. And it just like, that's one of those things like getting dirty now, never again will bother me.
So this is a tough thing to navigate because I want to do that here.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be these like blowhard pseudo military things where they charge men $1,000 to yell and put them in ice tanks and teach them how to breathe and wait for them to cry and talk about daddy issues.
Right.
But I also don't want to be go-ruck.
Yeah.
But I want something in the middle.
Finding the niche.
And
Absolutely.
there's a guy who runs Highlander events. And I'm looking at the thing right here. And August 19th at Cheyenne Mountain State Park.
Yep.
I'm actually going to be in Kansas City that weekend. But I'm going to do the one he's doing in Pine, Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
He's got go-ruck packs.
Yep.
You register for his ruck. It's like 5K, 13 mile, 17 mile elevation change. And that includes use of the pack.
Yeah.
Which is huge because normally you do something, you got to bring your own equipment.
Right.
And he doesn't know this yet. Hopefully he'll listen to this podcast. But I'm going to approach him and be like, you want a partner for an event?
Yeah.
Where we have them come here and it's not a mountain ruck, but like you get the ruck.
Yep.
The ruck comes out. We stay as a group like Go Ruck does.
Right.
But it's 10 minutes and it's a deadlift or it's stones.
Yes.
And we're going to the park and then it's
doing pull-ups.
move all this equipment.
Yes.
So it's like Go Ruck, but there's a huge strength aspect to it.
That'd be huge.
Hey, you've never done stones? Well, guess what? We're 2 hours into this and now we got to load stones. We got to figure this out.
Yup.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not a pass-fail type thing. It's just like
oh, yeah.
in that environment. And I really want that like dirty, because like the end of a Spartan makes you feel like that too.
Yes.
But it's mega endurance.
Yes.
And I just really want it to be that rugged thing.
Man, it's funny you said that. I tried out for Special Forces in the National Guard. I did not make it. However, one of the selection processes was this like just all day, all night, multiple different type of events. And I think you anchor to those things in life about things that just kicked you and knocked your ass down. And it was funny, like to this day, like if I ever think I'm in a workout or if I'm doing something hard, I anchor back to that like Special Forces tryout where I'm like, nope, that was the hardest like physical thing where like we were moving logs. Like I loved that just everything was an unknown. They were like, you as a group are gonna take these 300-pound logs, jerry cans, 240s, and go. And you're just like, how far? And they're like, we'll tell you when to stop.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, that is, you want to talk about just a mind just messes with you. And I mean, you have like, I love what they are, how they do it, because it really forces that cream of leaders to come to the top of like, you can't put short dudes with tall dudes on the log. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And if you got a dude who's got one jerry can and a 240 just getting smoked, like you got to learn how to like swap your dudes out and like, but it's just, I like what you're going with the Go Ruck thing, because like, I really do feel like you can find that thing as a civilian to anchor to. It's just one of the hardest things you've ever done. And it puts a lot of other shit in perspective that isn't hard that you think's hard.
And it's got to be at a level where people will be like, okay, I'll do it. And it's such a fine line, because like people like you and I, and that whole, I'm looking at the Grit Crew flag right here, and we can get into where that came from. There's a whole group of people in New York that are just like some of the grittiest people I've ever met.
Yes.
I think we started the Grit Crew here.
Yes.
Initially, we were going to the park, and
yes.
we had like Mike and Leah. And,
yes.
And then in New York, they started a Facebook group and they called it Grit Crew.
Okay.
And that's where the name came from, Grit Crew. And really it came from because I got that grit program.
Right.
And a handful of them all did it. And they got together, and it was winter time. And I remember watching them out there, Crystal and Bill and Allie, all these people that did it, Becky, and they were out there because they're probably gonna listen to this one, shout out. And they got gloves doing the bear crawl mile.
Yeah.
That was the thing for that, in the snow, on the sidewalk, in upstate New York in the winter time. Yeah, just like didn't give a shit. Like, if this was written, this is what I'm doing.
Right.
And the whole point of that was like at the end of it, like you just develop this, like, it doesn't matter what you're throwing at, I'm gonna do it.
Yes.
And now
you have to have that mentality.
Watching these people, like John is another one. So John, I went to high school with John Martin. And I remember he in high school didn't have a car and worked at Red Lobster and walked there. It was like 12 miles.
Sure.
Walked there every day. And then he got a bike. And I remember he was biking like out to Syracuse, New York, and around Green Lakes, and these crazy like bike rides. And then like we kind of knew of each other. I knew he biked and knew this, we kind of continued to stay in touch.
Yeah.
And then recently got back in touch over this whole grit thing.
Okay.
He started a grit crew, he got involved in that, he started lifting, and now he's running his own programming, and it's phenomenal. He just posted a challenge for July, where he's like, carry something heavy for a mile every day.
Oh.
Yeah. And then he did the Boilermaker, which is this huge road race in upstate New York.
Yes.
And then it's like a 15K.
Yep.
Later that day, he was like, still got to carry.
Still got to carry.
Yeah, and it was awesome.
Won't
and
stop.
this whole like grit crew idea, I don't even know where we were going with that, but like it just fosters this idea where like get dirty, and that's what we were gonna say, how do you draw the line between like somebody who hasn't done that, hasn't experienced it, hasn't developed that, because you can't just say like, I'm gonna be gritty today.
Yes.
You can't. You gotta like, I'm gonna try this, it's gonna suck. And we're trying to do that for members in here.
Yeah.
Where like 10 rounds, they're doing the math. You're gonna run a 5K today? Like I've never run a 5K in my life.
Right.
You're gonna run a 5K, do 100 pull-ups and 100 sit-ups over the course of 10 rounds.
Yep.
And then like you're gonna feel great for the first 2 rounds. And then you get to round 5 and you're like,
it's sad.
You're like, I'm only partway through this.
Yep.
I put a 45-minute time cap on it. If you look up at there the times, 55 minutes, 49 minutes, 48 minutes. And I loved that. Because
absolutely.
People get to like 8 rounds and I'm like, I'm fucking finishing this.
Yeah.
Even though like you get to round 8 and you're like, I gotta finish this.
Yep.
And that's the magic.
It is.
And it's gotta be an event where people are gonna say, it's just crazy enough that I'll do it.
Yeah.
And if it's too over the top, like death race, people don't sign up for death race unless you're already in the elite athlete.
Exactly.
It's too far.
Well, I think the best thing about grit that you were talking about is it truly is something that's developed. And I think for me specifically, and Pops, if you watch this, I think my grittiness actually came from him in really horrible hunting trips.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was one of those. I mean, we'd go out, elk and deer hunting in the fall before weather change and climate change, which is its own rabbit hole. And it was just like my dad, very old school dude. Like, you didn't cry, you didn't complain, and it was snowing, and you missioned on no matter what it took. And it was really funny. Like some of the hard things that he put me through between growing up in construction on the other end of the shovel hunting, and then like even my dad worked out, like definitely paved the way for having that mental fortitude to have grit.
Yeah.
But you'll never develop that unless you get out of your comfort zone. And like you said, if you're if you got a 10-round thing in front of you, you're going to get real sad around round 5.
Yeah.
And you're going to be at a fork in the road. Do you lower a gear, or do you keep your foot down on the gas pedal and keep going?
You know what happens if you don't do it? It gets real easy to quit later.
It does, and it becomes a habit. Michael Jordan talked about that like quitting's a habit, and once you quit one thing, it makes it real easy to keep doing it.
Like however you want to put it, like keeping promises to yourself.
Absolutely.
I'm going to completely misquote this study, but I'll give you the gist. There was a study where people decided what they were going to do, and they did like EKG on the brain, or this, like whatever it's called. They magically viewed their brain shit.
Yeah.
And how basic can I put this? A pathway developed that said, I have this idea. And then they go and do it. And then if they said, like cognitive dissonance kicks in, I'm gonna do 10 rounds, 8's fine, I'm gonna stop at 8. They don't close that loop of having completed a decision.
Right.
And then it literally, on like a scientific level, because that loop was never closed, it gets easier and easier to like ingrain, to like leave that gap.
Absolutely.
Of expectation and reality.
Yes.
Versus you close it, and then you could look, and I had this conversation with a friend and client of mine, Becky, the other day, who's super strong in getting into running.
Okay.
Same unicorn.
Yeah, kind of being that hybrid athlete.
And she's like, I just need the confidence to like continue to run. And I was like, you got to look back at all the stuff you've already done.
Yes.
And that's where like completing this and doing it, holding those promises to yourself, you can be like, I don't think I want to do this, but I've done this a bunch of times already.
Absolutely.
It makes it easier to push through.
Anchoring on one of those hard things.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Keep coming back to it. What would you say would be like the pinnacle thing you've accomplished fitness-wise to date?
Fitness-wise?
Yep. That was a tough one.
Yeah.
That came out of nowhere.
So that's hard because I'm in the fitness industry.
I know, and that's why I hit you with a hard one of, is it an endurance run that you've done for a certain amount of time?
So I'm going to take it 2 different routes.
Okay.
One is opening this gym.
I was hoping you were going to.
Yeah.
I kind of played a mind game. I was hoping this was on the list.
I'd say this is number 1.
Absolutely.
This has been the longest goal that I've had.
Yes.
It's been probably, realistically, 10 years in the making.
Yep.
4 years of like really looking at it.
Yes.
And then last couple of months of like hard tragedy.
Yep.
That journey's been wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I never would have opened a gym in upstate New York.
Sure.
I have way too much respect for John.
Sure.
And Mohawk Valley Wellness. And like he brought me up.
Right.
He opened his gym. I joined him at 80 members.
Yep.
When it was $85 a month.
Yeah.
And then was with him and like I'd like to think I had a part in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think he would say I did, but I want to keep that humble. Like that gym grew to over 400 members. It grew to 13,000 square feet. This giant facility. I was part of this idea of where like I want to develop a barbell-free class.
Oh,
we called
okay.
it Mohawk Valley Fitness.
Yeah.
Coached to the same level, and I used to take such joy in people in CrossFit. Be like, yeah, anybody in CrossFit can come over here and try this for the week.
Sure.
I'm like, I'm gonna take it easy today, go to fitness. I'm like, fuck you are.
Watch this.
And then they come in, like it's only 45 minutes to move no barbell, and they would like crawl out of there.
Really?
Dude, we were doing like, all right, it's 50 ball over the shoulder, and then it's 50 burpees, and it's this, and it's 100 this, and it's like, it was grit stuff in the very beginning.
Yeah.
It was leveling people.
Oh, grunt work is super.
And now it's become what it is supposed to be, which is basically like a barbell, like a boot camp edition.
A boot camp edition.
CrossFit is like, I don't know if I want to get into that, so I can do fitness, which is great. People are getting super fit on it. But like that came about, the kids program. I started that. I started working with teens.
Yep.
I went to Morrisville State College, as an adult for exercise physiology. And I watched our football players do heinous cleans and not know how to do it. Like somebody's got to teach kids at a high school level.
I think that's something that's really missing.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad, that there's people like us around that want to teach that high school level. Because, I can tell you for me, like power cleans are one of my favorite movements of all time. And I really wish I would have learned how to do them effectively and efficiently at high school. Things would have drastically been different.
Major. Because you can see kids that like went to high school in Ohio come into the gym, like a CrossFit gym.
Oh my gosh.
Like, what do you mean you're like, what are you doing with 205 this night? Well, here's 275. And they're like, and they're not much to look at as a kid, but like they just know how to do it.
But they just
grew up.
explosive.
Yeah. But like, so the whole gym thing, like, I never would have opened a gym there because I love what he did for me. I learned how to run a gym from him.
Yep.
I was one of the first coaches he ever hired. It was him and his wife and Denise. It was in Vegas. And he hired me as like an actual hire, and I did an internship. I did like 100-something hours of coaching. I was assistant coach to him, and then I ran class, and he was in the background. So I coach exactly like him.
Sure.
And I got mega respect for him. He did multiple tours as a Marine, multiple tours as a private contractor.
Oh, wow.
And then he was corrections, and then he was like yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, real stand-up guy. He still business coaches me. I still chat with him all the time.
Right on.
And so I would never like open that underneath there.
Right.
So when we first moved out, like I always wanted to run my own thing.
Yes.
And I always wanted to like put my methodology, my stamp. It's not CrossFit.
Right.
And I used to be like, can I just have like a bare bone strength class? But it's too close to CrossFit.
Yeah.
And this is what
But it's just more grunt work type.
Basically. So instead I did like the YouTube channel, I did all that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. When we moved into the camper, and we came out here, prior to moving into the camper, we thought we were just going to move here.
Sure.
So we came out to visit some friends that were getting married.
Yep.
And we had planned on staying like 3 extra days, which we did.
Yep.
Just my wife and I, to look at property to open a gym.
Sure.
And I was on the verge of like an $80,000 business loan. I was going to go 4,000 square feet.
Oh, just go. Yeah.
And it was going to look and feel like a CrossFit gym. And then I quickly realized like, I'm not ready for this.
Sure.
And I started thinking about like, if I'm going to run 9 classes a day, I don't know anybody. I don't know any coaches. I'm going to have to mop the floors at 4 o'clock in the morning and then take the trash out at 9 o'clock at night.
Yep.
Every day.
Every day.
And I don't know who's going to come.
Yeah.
So that went away.
Yep.
And then it's always been in the back of my mind, like I got on the EMS and I worked 911, I was on ambulance and I got into management and this. And I can't tell you how many times I was like, I just want to say, fuck it, open a gym right now.
I remember that's
All
when
the
you and I
time.
were talking real hard about it. 'Cause
Yeah, we were both going through that with our jobs.
Yeah,
That's when you're up at Coronado flipping tires. We're like, you just open a gym. It was like, "I'll just open a gym." You know?
Totally.
And it was always this like, haha, like pipe dream thing.
Yeah.
And then when we were back in New York and I was director of personal training, when we decided to come back here, I was like, I'm not going to people a gym. I'm going to do something that I don't want to do forever. And now's the time to open a gym.
Yes.
And Brittany, back 4 years ago, when I was going to, she was like, I don't know if this is a good idea, you know this?
Yep.
And when it was time to move back, she was like, do it.
Do it.
Now's the time.
Chips in, baby.
Yep. And it was literally like we moved back March, April, secured the spot.
Yep.
May started advertising. June 1st got the keys. July 1st opened.
Yeah.
And so I think this is probably my biggest fitness accomplishment.
I would agree.
I think this is the culmination of all of that.
Yeah.
If I had to say like personally, I would say going from a strength athlete to an endurance athlete, tasting the other side,
Yep.
running 50 miles a week. I was
Right.
doing, like an average run was 8 to 12 miles
Yeah.
a day.
Yep.
I remember one time I ran up, was it high drive?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Up high drive and back down, 10 miles, 1,500 foot elevation gain. And then I went and deadlifted 600 pounds on the trap bar.
Oh.
Yeah. Trap bar, high.
Well, still.
You know.
600 still
And
not,
it was
that's not
hard, you
chunky.
know. But like I was also like 205, super
Sure.
lean, and like that was cool. And I think the accomplishment is not doing that, but traveling back.
Sure.
You know, like on the tag end of that, to come back to what we were talking about earlier, when you got, needed some of the guidance and strongman
Yeah.
influenced me to get back into it.
Yep.
The full story of that accomplishment is that year changing gears and then PRing my deadlift, my squat, my bench, and qualifying for nationals.
Absolutely.
All later that same year.
Yeah.
Just because like it blew my mind that it's possible. I'm not a freak athlete. And I got 2 kids, and I run a business. My wife runs a business. We don't have a lot of time, but like,
Still
if
managed
that's
to accomplish
possible,
all that,
if
right.
you can do that, go from like, I was winning like 205, 210 the very next year. I'm 235 trying to make 220 with a trip to nationals.
Right.
Like, if you can turn that quickly,
Yeah.
at 35 years old, 36 years old, like, what else can you accomplish?
Exactly.
And that's why I'm like, there's no reason why at 37, I can't now PR my squat, the squat to over this building.
I mean, Rob Orlando posted like his for like,
Oh, yeah.
whatever it was his 50th? Or
He's at least late 40s.
I would say his 40th or something. Like he PR'd his back squat. I was
Yeah.
like, life goals, man.
Oh, man. I just like, humans are just blowing out these like expectations that, oh, you're over the hill, pack it in. You know? It's just not true.
I think that's the wild thing about like kind of the era as a species that we're in. I feel like as a species, obesity and diabetes and all these things are like an all-time high. And I feel like the people who do work out are in a much smaller percentage now. But man, that percentage, monsters,
Yeah.
just freaks.
I saw, you remember it was like the Overheard Press or something, like satire articles about CrossFit?
Yes.
They wrote this satire article that was like, average CrossFitter builds time machine and goes back and wins 2010 games.
Right.
Because it's like the quality, and yeah, it's tongue in cheek, because you watched the 2009, 2010 games.
Yeah.
But then you look at like what people are doing now and not going anywhere with it because there's so many great athletes.
There's so many just great athletes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're at 25, and I think I need to reset this.
Let's do it.
Let's do that real quick. Cat video incoming, whatever it's going to be. And that's recording. Literally just said, for all you viewers out there, let's not plan, let's just go. I feel like that pretty much sums up
Pretty much what we're about. Just
Yeah. I'm going to stop this clock, I'm going to reset it, and start. Cool. What else you got written down there? We had some notes to talk about, but I think we went way off it.
I mean, I don't remember what we were supposed to talk about at this point.
Oh, let me grab my phone. I have a couple other questions from people that I want to pull out. Yeah. Let's see. We're the Grit Crew. Risk of injury, prevent imbalances. Oh, we can get real gritty, like nitty gritty.
We can cut down the weeds. I was gonna say, like,
Yeah.
for me, my injury prevention would definitely be your very weird generic. Are you drinking enough water? Are you getting enough sleep?
Yeah.
You know, I think something as I'm getting older, it's one of those things I think you tell younger generations, because I found myself in that group of, growing up, you never did mobility.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Your warm up was benching. That was it.
Cheetahs don't warm up.
That's right. Cheetahs don't warm up. Sharks don't warm up.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I look forward more and more to just some of the advanced mobility stuff, the lacrosse ball, the foam rollers. Like, I think all of that really plays into injury prevention, injury maintenance.
I agree, and I think maybe I should have clarified this earlier when I was talking about warm-ups, because I think people confuse the two.
Yeah.
I think people do injury prevention and mobility as their warm-up.
And it's not.
Yeah.
It's a completely separate thing, because like I have found myself a victim of that after I got out of CrossFit, where I'm like, oh cool, I'm gonna foam roll. I'm warm. And then I'm like, no.
Uh-huh.
And that was a hard lesson I found out. And I swung that pendulum the other way, whereas like before, like I hated doing warm-ups because it just completely burnt me out for like my motivation for the workout.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, cool. I would do lacrosse ball and foam rolling, and I feel like I could consider myself warm. And it's like, no, that's injury prevention. That's not a warm-up.
Right. And I think that people are putting it into their warm-up space,
Yep.
and then not allowing them time to get strong.
Yeah.
And or like to devote to their actual lift of the day or what they're doing.
And I think that's such a hard balance, moving into one of the other points is I also have found myself very victim, and even lately, it's funny, I have felt like lately I've been so fixated on event training that I've completely neglected accessory work. And then it was funny because I felt like, 6 months ago, the pendulum was swung back the other way. It was like all I cared about was like pressing accessory movements, and I wouldn't touch an actual event implement because I was like too scared, and I like wanted to just build foundational work. And it's funny kind of coming back with you on things. It's like, God, it's been nice to find more of that balance and understanding the appreciation for accessory movements, as well as you do still need that event training once or twice a week, depending on what you got coming up.
I had this conversation with somebody about expressing strength and fitness and building strength and fitness.
Yes.
And I think that's where like strongman especially comes in, because there's a skill to the implement,
Yes.
but the strength to do it doesn't come from the implement.
No.
The implement just expresses your ability to be strong and move things and be resilient.
That is so elegantly put, because the thing is, like, you're absolutely right. And I guess I felt like for me, coming from a CrossFit semi-Olympic background, that I'm like, well, if I just clean and press the log all the time, I'll suddenly get better at it. And it's like, no, you need to build your triceps, you need to build your front delts, your pecs, through accessory work to make that log feel less shitty.
We were just talking to Jason tonight, and it was perfect because he came in kind of beat up from the week.
Yep.
And today's deadlift day, 3x3. Heavy. He didn't go crazy heavy.
Sure.
He's a strong dude.
Yeah.
He came in, I think he pulled 295 for a 3x3.
Dude's got some wheels.
Yeah. And he's been used to trap bars, so he's getting used to the skill of straight bar deadlifting.
Yep.
And then hammered on the accessory work. He grabbed the 65s.
And he
for
was
the shrugs
doing shrugs and rows. I was like,
and there's a lot of effort in the accessory work.
Yes.
It's phenomenal.
And it was funny when we were talking about that, because it's like I feel like sometimes too, when you get done with that event training and you have accessory work to do it, you don't want to do it.
Yeah. That's in here. That's why I was very adamant about, like, if we're going to do functional fitness with a strength bias, bodybuilding is going to happen regularly.
And like, it's so funny, like looking back at CrossFit when it first started, about how much shit they always talk about.
Never do biceps.
Or benching. And it was so funny. I remember one of the first, like when YouTube was real big for me back, like you said, in that 2010 era, and I was watching Rich Froning. He constantly was like, I bench press all the time for how much it transfers to my overhead pressing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, kind of interesting how that dude does a lot of bodybuilding type movements to help improve weak point areas.
And a lot of them still do. And I don't know how it gets lost. Where is the disconnect in this age of information when somebody drinks a CrossFit Kool-Aid and be like, I want to be really great at CrossFit.
Yeah.
And then they just go do CrossFit WODs all day.
Right.
I'm like, have you studied the athletes? You're looking at what they're doing, because they're not doing WODs all day long.
No.
They're doing accessory work.
Like metabolic conditioning is a 2-part of a 5-part part of their day, where they've got like an odd object part. They've got a straight accessory movement, as it's applied to the Metcon that's coming up. And like, I feel like it's a very interesting lost thing.
And it's amazing what you can get away with when you're strong.
Yeah.
So I was chatting with a client, and this is where this conversation came up. She had been doing CrossFit for a long time, and then switched over to this kind of training, like program for her remotely.
Yeah.
She's crushing it. Absolutely crushing.
Good.
Yeah, strong, lots of accessory work, lots of building weak points, some conditioning, a little bit of running, kettlebell swings, things like that. Jumped into Grace, female weight for Grace at 95.
Yeah.
She was like, man, that bar was so light. Sub 2 minutes, I think.
Whole.
Yeah. But if the bar's light, you don't need to be the best at clean and jerking with the skill.
Right.
Look at, who's the strongman that did Grace?
Oh my gosh. Brian Shaw and like Eddie Hall.
And they literally were just
they were muscle
they just like, okay, touch the ground, touch the sky, touch the ground, touch the sky, and that was it. And like, if your standard is to move that weight of the barbell, there's no weight classes in the jungle.
Nope.
You know, so like, get really strong. I'll never forget that day I was at CrossFit, and it was like, build your heavy thruster for the day. I think I told you about this.
Yeah.
And
you were doing 275.
I had 275 on the rack, and I turned around, there's some people looking at me.
What are you going to do with that?
How's I run a thruster? Why? You know, like, and it isn't a common thing in CrossFit.
It's not.
You know? I went to Florida. I told you this story too. I went to Florida, and this was back when I was living in New York, and everybody in the CrossFit gym in New York did 5-3-1.
Yeah.
Everybody had a strong list 5x5 app, and they followed the gym under 5-3-1, and they knew their percentages, and they knew that Monday we squat, Wednesday we bench, and Friday we pull.
Absolutely.
And then I go to Florida, and they're like, what do you do? I was like, I do CrossFit. They're like, what else do you do?
You're like,
why are you so big? I was like, well, we just lift regularly, you know?
Yeah.
And it just carries over to everything.
It does.
And to come back to that point, like, it's expressed in these other things.
It is.
You know, I don't need to endurance train all the time
Right.
on a bike to go for a 22-mile bike ride.
Correct.
And I did that, and it didn't wreck me, and that was great.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think people get lost in what moves the needle forward versus like who they want to emulate, who they want to be.
You know, I think another thing that's unfortunate for, I would say, the fitness industry as a whole right now, and I think we were talking about this, like you look at like the Rogue or the CrossFit Games, both as its own separate thing, and it's like, I feel like every year they're trying to outdo themselves on events. And it's like, I feel like as a fitness whole, losing some of that, just keeping it simple is the most effective thing. You don't need the glamour things behind it. Like, I think it's overrated.
People have been watching Strongman for years, and Strongman is a show.
It is.
Right? It's not a Strongman competition, it's a Strongman show.
Yep.
Because it's supposed to be like you're carrying a fridge, you're deadlifting this thing of nickels, and women on top of it, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's still a deadlift, a press, a carry, a whatever.
Exactly.
It's still the same movements. And CrossFit's trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yes.
You know, and then they're coming up with new names for things, and it's, I don't know. It really turned me off to the whole sport. It's just not for me. And maybe it's that whole, I didn't choose this path chose me because we're bigger dudes.
And it was funny.
Two strong dudes.
I've had this talk constantly with Mia, and it's funny growing up watching CrossFit. Like, I wanted to be a competitive CrossFit athlete for so long, and it was super funny. Like, dudes I was competing with, like Cody, and no knock on Cody's size, but like the dude's 5'3", dude's 5'4". And like, you're watching it on TV and you don't necessarily grasp the concept of size. And I do really feel like if you're a bigger dude, two strong dudes, that you're at a genetic disposition for certain things.
Yeah.
And like, it's funny, we're built for running, we're built for picking heavy stuff up, like, end of the day.
And at the same time, I love CrossFit.
Yeah.
As a methodology and where it started. I don't like the competitive aspect. I love I think we were talking about how like they had a softball throw, and it was just like testing all different things. And just seeing
planes
like,
of fitness. Yes.
But that's just the thing, it's testing all different things. Seeing like, hey, what did your methodology bring to the table? What did your methodology bring to the table?
Right.
And I really think it's a lot like UFC and mixed martial arts.
Yes.
Which used to be, you got this guy in a ninja outfit fighting a guy doing like Kempo.
Yes.
And let's see who wins.
Yes.
But now it's like, if you want to do ultimate mixed martial arts, you don't.
Nope.
You just train mixed, which is a weird thing to say. I train mixed martial arts. No, you don't. You train jiu-jitsu, grappling, and Muay Thai kickboxing.
Right.
And they boiled it down. CrossFit did the same thing.
They did the same thing.
They had John Wellborn, right, who 10 years in the NFL, 312 pounds at 8% body fat, competed in 2009 games, every single time.
Yeah.
Right? And he didn't do great.
No.
But it was just cool to see these different things. And that's what the sport of fitness was supposed to be about.
Yep.
But now it's, all right, you should probably train Olympic lifting, you should probably train gymnastics, and then we're just going to do women's marathons.
Yeah.
And now
it's sprinkling like the grunt work, odd object stuff, but that's That in the whole is the cookie cutter box that you can
It's
put
just
into.
become like they boiled it down to the things that will make you great at this sport.
Yes.
Versus I used to say you can't do CrossFit or you can't do cross training because CrossFit is just a brand name. Like you can't do cross training in a day.
Correct.
Somebody's like, oh, I'm going to go do cross training today.
Yep.
Like, well, what do you mean? You're going to go for a run and you're going to lift heavy and you're going to do a conditioning and you're going to do bodybuilding? You're like,
Right.
no, I'm going to do 3 rounds of 10 and whatever. Like, no, you're just doing that metabolic conditioning thing today.
Yes.
And then if tomorrow you run a 5K, and then on Saturday you do a powerlifting thing, and then on Sunday you do some bodybuilding accessories, now you're cross training.
Yes.
That's the difference. And there's a difference between cross training, hybrid training, and concurrent training,
Yeah.
which is huge. I love concurrent training, but concurrent training is taking 2 methodologies, 2 modalities, and simultaneously getting good at each one.
Yeah.
I want to run a 50K and I want to powerlift.
Yep.
That's concurrent training.
Yeah.
Cross training is I'm going to do a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. Yep.
Yeah, which is also fun. Hybrid training is where I'm going to bring them all together, right? And that's more of what we do here.
Absolutely.
So like we're going to power lift 3 times a week, not because we're power lifters, but because it's just a known fact that if you get good at squat, bench, deadlift, you're going to be all around strong.
Yeah.
And then you're going to do bodybuilding because it's a known fact.
Those accessory movements will transfer to making the other 3 things better.
And if you get bigger, you're going to be stronger.
Yeah.
That's just a fact. Oh, who was it? You and I were talking to somebody the other day. I can't remember if it was you and I or somebody else, but basically this person was like, yeah, I really want to lift, but like I don't want to get huge. And I don't think you were there, but I think you know exactly what I'm going to say. I would just be like, try to get huge.
Try.
Like don't, it's almost offensive when people say that.
Yes.
Like, really? Oh, I'm sorry, you're going to go lift this month and you're going to get huge?
Right.
I'm trying to get huge for 30 years.
Yeah.
You know?
Good luck.
Ever since I had a G.I. Joe action figure, I wanted to look like him
Right.
with traps out.
Let me know how
I
that
tried my
works.
whole fucking life.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, please, go get huge. And then we'll tackle that problem when, you know?
Yep.
But if you try to get huge, you'll hit every other milestone along the way that you've ever
Then you
wanted.
go, yes.
You'll lean out, you put on muscle, you'll tone or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. And it's lose body fat, gain muscle. That's it.
Name of the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I think the nice thing about this place, honestly, is we were kind of talking about building the dream. Is I think you take bits and pieces from everything to make it yours and make it successful. And I think for me, like everything you have listed on today, just specifically, it is still at the end of the day functional movements, like things that you have to do every day. You have to squat down to pick up your backpack, your briefcase, to go to the restroom. You are going to come across things in your daily life. You have to do functional movements. Something that I listened to a podcast with Chris Spieler a long time ago is, he started a thing called grunt work. And I loved it. I loved the podcast on it. And, he talked about that. He was really getting into hunting and outdoors work. And he's like, you will never in nature come across a perfectly calibrated metallic barbell that you're going to have to deal with.
Right.
You are going to have to, however, deal with stepping over a log. You're going to have to, pick up a dead animal and move it. And, his biggest thing was like, he really did a lot with sandbags. And like, that's where I actually got really turned on to sandbags after listening to his podcast. And then actually I bought his program. I think that pendulum swung a certain direction for me where I was just like, all sandbags, that is my holy grail. And I lost the powerlifting bodybuilding style. And then it's like, then I came back to like the Joey Sazits and the Brian Oslos where I'm like, man, you are really fast and really huge. I like what you're selling. And they do the strongman CrossFit stuff. And it's funny, they don't ever call it that, but it's like you're doing a burpee bag over sprawl. Like that's a CrossFit movement with a strongman staple, aspect to it. And I love it. And that's what I feel like, that's what's been super cool about what we're doing is we're building that where it's the whole thing. And that's what I guess I feel like I liked about CrossFit when I first started, and then I felt like it really went a different direction than I didn't want to go. Yeah. But then like I do feel like I've come across some of these one-offs that it's like it's only sandbags. And it's like, well, that's cool, but you do need a barbell. You do need to push a sled. You do need to do tricep press downs to increase your overhead press. Like those things just have to be there. And that's what I've really enjoyed about like kind of the building up of the bare bones.
And it comes with, it's just trial and error. Mm-hmm. Like in the very beginning, we're saying like, I think everybody should like fuck up for a few years.
Absolutely.
And try things.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, go to Planet Fitness for a while.
Yeah.
get some experience. And it's really strange when I come across people and I'm trying to like figure out their perspective on fitness when they've done nothing and then they did CrossFit, or they did nothing and then like they got into bodybuilding, or they did nothing, and they're all different. And it's so cool. I love anything that people get into with fitness for that reason, because it starts to expand horizons.
It does.
And I love that moment when they make that cross from that very first thing they got into the next thing. And they're like, oh, and it starts to tie together. It's really cool.
I mean, it was one of the most coolest, humbling experiences for me was at Nationals last year with the, basically the sandbag clean and press.
Ooh, yeah.
Like,
hit a block too. It was at that event.
I was like, no big deal. 200-pound sandbag? Shit. I'll do that for reps with the barbell. You want to get humble pied? Clean and press a sandbag with like a handled sandbag. It will bury your soul out there. And I loved it. I loved that concept. And that's, I mean, it was one of those things back to like even like Grace. That's like a staple. It's like, that's super cool. You can do Grace with the barbell. Go do Grace with a 120-pound sandbag. Let me know how that transfer goes for you.
There was a year, I was talking to my friend Ryan Mays about this. He lives out here and we're both from the same gym in New York. And actually, coincidentally, I did Taekwondo with him when we were 6 and 7 years old.
That's a small one.
Yeah, it's small. And now we're all out here. But anyway, we were talking about this one year where we did barbells for boobs.
Yes.
And it's always Grace.
Yeah.
And somewhere there's a picture of me and John, who owned the gym, Jen, his wife, and Denise, the other trainer, all wearing pink and tutus.
Yeah.
And we all did Grace.
Yeah.
John did barbell men's weight. Denise did barbell women's weight.
Yeah.
Jen did 2 kettlebells, and I did log.
Okay.
Yeah. And we all did Grace side by side, like just to show the different.
That is so cool.
Really cool. I think it was a 70-pound log and 45, so 90, 160. I did Grace 160 with a log. It was pretty much Vipers.
Still, it's funny.
I trained it before we did it. Like, I didn't just go cold. Like,
right.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's a cool concept. And that's actually one thing that I've actually liked about some of the experience that I have now in strongman, taking it to other aspects, was a couple months ago, I was at a CrossFit Continuum, and I was working out with my buddy Ian, and it was basically like a barbell clean and press, and it was supposed to be, I think, like a biking or rowing. And it was funny. We ended up swapping. We did ski and Viper press.
Ooh.
And it was spicy.
What an amazing combination.
It was such a cool combo. And I think that's one thing to me that I'll always come back to functional fitness CrossFit on is like, you can absolutely eloquently program to just destroy yourself with 2 things and make it simplistic and make it fun without making it a 21-15-9 that's boring.
Monday, kettlebell swings, push-ups.
Perfect.
100 kettlebell swings, 50 push-ups. 80 kettlebell swings, 40 push-ups. All the way down.
Yeah.
Annihilate. And
they're
annihilate those
basic movements.
Yeah.
Yes.
I actually did it in my driveway today with the 70.
I think one of my favorite ones.
So if I'm going to do it, it's simple.
That the farmer carries with the bodyweight squats.
Oh, yeah.
That was brutal, and I loved it because like
we did the searchers too.
Yes,
yeah.
You're kind of getting the leg pump from the farmers, and your core is kind of breaking down, and then really trying to fight that and maintain good air squats was brutal.
Do you remember strongmanwad.com?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh,
loved it.
Yeah. So I have an ebook called Bare Bones Method.
Yes.
And in the back of it is like the conditioning compendium. It's like 70 something workouts where I wrote all of my own, where I was doing strongman WOD type things, but they're all my own. And it's like 225 back rack lunges with an axle bar, plus weighted dips, things like that. And there were just these like brutal combinations of real heavy stuff. I remember one of my favorite ones, this was from strongmanwad.com. I think it's when Robert Orlando was still programming. And then Body Davies took over later on.
Yes.
He loves bench press with dumbbells. All his stuff. It's all kilograms for Roddy.
Right.
But when Rob was programming, it was 10 down to 1, body weight squat cleans with body weight per hand farmer's carry in between each one. It was like 45 minutes.
Gross.
It was ridiculous. Yeah.
You know what's funny, you talking about strongman WOD, that made me think back to, I'm trying to remember, Power Athlete on Instagram, but do you remember CrossFit Football?
Oh yeah, dude, I cut my teeth on CrossFit Football.
Money. Dude, that was one of my, like when I first got into CrossFit at a conventional gym, I was like, this is so heavy and simplistic and I love it. Like it's heavy dumbbell, heavy dumbbell cleans, heavy dumbbell single arm snatches, like just heavy barbell deadlifts. Like
you know what I have that I'm going to send you and you're going to flip out? I have 3 years on a spreadsheet that somebody sent to me of every single conditioning workout of CrossFit football.
Wow.
3 years of 5 days a week or 6 days a week of all their conditioning. And then the beauty of that was it was like 5x5 back squat, 5x3 deadlift, 5x5 bench press.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
Following the basic program.
Correct.
And then, so I went to the very last CrossFit football / first CrossFit SSP, Sports Specific, with John Wellborn. And I got to hang out for the weekend. Zach Evans showed up because it was in Philadelphia and he was in New Jersey, came over. I was hanging out with Zach, John Wellborn. Like, I'm getting chills. Like, I'm like, standing one of these guys, right? And I had already met Zach at this time. So
Sure.
Zach is like humble dude. Like, he'll still email me.
Wow.
I'm like, somebody on his level to like just remember my name and be like, he'd be like, hey bro, how's Colorado?
Yeah.
I'm like, you know who I am? You know what I mean?
That's so cool.
Like, he showed up and we got to like hang out with John Wellborn and listen to him as the wheels were turning. And it was the very like same 3 months where he was like, I gotta get out of bed with CrossFit. And it was happening because he was like, I can't in good faith promote a program of linear progressions of strength
Yes.
in a constantly very functional movement environment.
And that's the hard part to get into, is that exactly the nail on the head of it. I feel like people want to do just like the cookie cutter program, but you have to, I feel like you look at anybody who's doing it competitively, they have a linear progressive program that they're doing.
It's so important. It's boring, but it's important.
It's boring, but it's important.
You know, it doesn't have to be super boring. So when I wrote that ebook, The Bare Bones Method, it was the whole idea of like methods over principles over programs.
Yes.
Because I personally hate programs. I don't know if you knew this about me.
I really struggle myself with that because I look at a program and I get agitated and I'm like, I just want to do this.
Right. I was like, you can't contain me.
Yes.
Like, I'm a grown man, I want to go do this today.
And it's a weird thing because I'm like, I feel like as an athlete, like, maybe it's a defect, but I feel like I want to look at, like, if Stephanie, if you watch this, you're the pinnacle for this conversation. Like, Stephanie needs a program and she will follow that program and thrive to the T. And I'm just like, it's almost a challenge where I look at that and I'm like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Like, at all. Like, I'm good.
And then I know for the next 12 weeks on every Monday, I'm going to do this. I'm like, nah. But in that same respect, so when I wrote the ebook, it was the idea that like, you got your 7 basic movement patterns. You got hip hinge. You got hip hinge with a knee bend. So you got squat and deadlift. You got press horizontal, pull horizontal, press vertical, pull vertical, and you got a y-axis of a lunge. Do those things every week.
Yeah.
That's it. And then if every week you're challenging those things, it'll get better. That's like the 100% principle I've lived the past at least 10 years of my life on.
Absolutely.
And it's paid off pretty well. I'm not an elite athlete. Nobody pays me to work out, but I got pretty strong off of it.
Yeah.
Because like, you know what? I haven't squatted yet this week. I'm going to squat.
Yeah.
You know what? I haven't benched this week. I'm going to bench. You know what? I should do some bodybuilding accessories. I don't follow any program.
Sure.
I'll be like, okay, to an extent. Granted, we have tons of experience of like following programs and following things. So it's kind of like when you say that like I don't track food or I don't, but if you have tracked food in the past, you probably know what to eat.
Yeah.
I don't follow a program, but I know what to do.
Yeah.
I know like a 3x3 is good, a 5x2.
Yeah.
And then I might do 3x1 at 90%.
Right.
And then I might like retest a heavy single for a training max and then come back around and like.
Well, I think we talked about this last time we were kind of just shooting the shit was like, I feel like there's 2 different types of people in the world. There's people that really thrive with percentage bases, and then there's people who really thrive with like the RPE. Yeah. And then I also feel like kind of like you and I are somewhere in that middle of you're taking both and applying it to somewhere in that unicorn middle.
Yeah.
Of I'm supposed to be doing an RPE 7, but man, we're gonna probably roll 80%.
Yeah. You're like, how do I feel today?
Yeah.
And then I think it was Brian McKenzie and I can't remember his name. They wrote a book called like Unplugged. And they were talking about like Fitbits and workout trackers and Whoops. Yeah. And they're like, if you wake up in the morning and you feel great and it says 20% recovered, you're like, I shouldn't do anything today. But maybe you would have had a great day. Or the opposite, if you wake up and it says like, you're 100%, you're like, I feel like shit, why can't I do this? Right? It really puts you in a box versus just saying like, I feel like 100%, let me do this.
And I don't mean to knock on Whoop, but like there was a friend that I had at CrossFit and it was the weirdest thing to me to witness of she lived and died. Like if she woke up and looked at it and was like, oh, I'm supposed to be in the yellow, I'm not going to do anything today. I'm like, but how do you feel?
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you feel good, why are you letting this little watch tell you what you can.
And why is it that from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed is you're exactly the same? Maybe you woke up in the yellow, but maybe by noon you're green.
Yeah.
Hey, all right. So we're not quite sure where our last rant kicked off, and it's not because we drank one can of beer. It's because the camera died.
The camera died, and we didn't
so
plug it in.
There might have been some rants in there that we lost.
Episode 1 problems.
That's fine. It's fine. It happens. 2 battery packs next time, and we'll change it up. That's what happens when you do like an hour and a half long podcast for number 1.
I mean, we covered a lot of ground. And I think, like, he's going to edit this, but I do want a couple of asterisks. Like, one, I don't want anybody to take this video the wrong way that, like, this is just, like, a gigantic, like, bash on CrossFit. Because, again, I think we led with a couple asterisks of, like, there's absolutely amazing things about CrossFit. Functional fitness, I think, is a longevity thing as a human being that you're going to deal with the rest of your life. Whether you're young or old, you're going to deal with day in and day out odd object type movements. I think another asterisk is, like, if you're an endurance runner, an endurance biker, that's fantastic. That's awesome. No knock. Like, you know, the title of the podcast, you know, is, you know, the Two Strong Dudes Show. And I would say,
is that what we said? The Two Strong Dudes Show?
Is that what we did?
I think so. We'll go back and listen to it.
We'll go back and figure it out. But I think strength, you know, somebody once told me, and it's always stuck with me, that, like, being strong is never a weakness. And I've always weirdly tied back to that. And I don't remember who quoted it too, but it was like, never give up being strong to be a burpee queen.
Ooh.
That one's also really hit hard. Like,
yeah.
You know what? I would take a strong deadlift and a strong press and a strong squat over the ability to do 100 burpees quickly.
Because Rob Orlando, Stalta, strength takes a lifetime to achieve.
Yes.
Fitness does not.
No.
Like, if you spend 5 years getting really, really strong, or 1 year getting really, really strong, and then in like the next 4 months, you get real conditioning you can do those burpees.
Absolutely.
That's a real quick train. Quick to gain, quick to lose.
Yes.
Strength, long to lose.
Long to lose.
Long to gain,
long to gain. Long to lose. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Kind of quick to lose, hard to gain back too.
But you know what? I think those pathways are still there.
They are.
So, like, Brittany, after being pregnant for 2 years and nursing and having a baby, is realizing that, like, it's all going to come back quick.
It does.
Like, I think she just pulled 235 the other day. Wow. Yeah. She hadn't deadlifted in over 2 years. I mean, she worked out while she was pregnant, but, like, she just started getting back into it. And, of course, we're always our own worst critic. And
absolutely.
Like, I don't feel like I'm as strong.
Oh, I know.
You know, it's not like, I've been there. I dropped way down. I dropped 20, 30 pounds, and I gained back in a few months, and my strength came back.
Came back right.
So I think, like, it's there still. Like,
it is.
Their muscles, I don't know if they remember, they've still got that.
I think you build some of that foundational, deep-rooted strength, and I think some of it's probably cues.
Yeah.
Like, when you walk up to a barbell, if you've deadlifted for the last 15 years, you're going to have cues built in.
Sure.
And I think that alone helps channel some of that, just like foundational strength.
So if you had to do a big takeaway from everything we talked about today, in like one big sentence.
One big sentence. I would say I'm extremely humbled and proud that what's getting started. And I think I love the concept that you and I have talked about for a while about being the unicorn. And I think, there's absolutely a place in everyone's life for a barbell, a sandbag, a sled push, a run. I think everyone can take something away from grunt work, odd objects, mixed with a sprinkle of endurance, powerlifting, bodybuilding, because I think they all do coincide. And I'm just really, really happy that this is happening.
Yeah, dude, same.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was going to say also. But I was just going to remind people, don't be afraid to get strong.
Don't. I think, the more lives that I've touched, getting out of CrossFit and getting into, strongman, and then a little bit more back into like the strongman CrossFit thing, like the more people I do feel like genuinely understand the ideology and philosophy behind it.
Right.
And it was really funny. Stephanie Mia and Wendy and I all did basically like a heavy strongman sandbag program, and it was awesome. And I think it really, Wendy, if you're watching this, I know you'll appreciate this. Like, she cares for Sierra, and she said that getting strong changed her life as far as being able to get Sierra in and out of the car, get her into her chair.
Sure.
And like, you know, it's definitely an eye-opening experience for her. And, you know, I think for, you know, if you have kids, don't have kids, but I think for me, like one of the coolest things in the world is I'll ask, you know, Alice and the boys, like, you know, what's a really, you know, cool thing that I've done? And they're like, you doing strongman has been very inspirational.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's awesome. Like,
not a lot of kids have that to look up to.
No.
Luckily, more kids than used to 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
You know, like our generation didn't have as much as like our kids' generation is now because it's becoming a bigger thing.
It's becoming a bigger thing.
But you're right, and I think like it can't be. We could do a whole other podcast on parenting.
Oh God, I think we need to.
But I just think like, to me, it's just like this. It started out this cool, cute thing. Like Hadley, our first kid was born.
Yeah.
4 days later, Brittany's bench pressing.
Yeah.
She can't squat. She's a kid.
Right.
And I'm power cleaning.
Yeah.
And Hadley's asleep.
Yeah.
And then for the next like 6 to 8 months, she was asleep on a sled. And then she had her jumper on a squat rack in the gym, or she was on the front of one of us while we squatted.
Right.
And she just grew up around it. Now she comes in here, she's 7, and she's dumbbell. She's like, Dad, I just want to get a workout in today.
Right.
She's dumbbell bench pressing. She's rowing. She's doing burpees. She's like, I just want to get strong. She says, right? She's reading nutrition labels. That's something else that, I mean, this is no knock on anybody's parents who didn't know. You just didn't know.
Outside of us reading the back of the cereal box,
I grew up on hot dogs, cut up into macaroni and cheese.
And when you get bored, you'd read the nutritional facts, but you never knew how to apply it. And I absolutely feel like that is such a thing now that we actually give a shit about what we're actually eating.
Yeah. And with anything, you can go way too far down the road.
Oh, absolutely.
I love Joel Salatin. I love Carnivore MD, but like, I'll touch a receipt. It's not that big of a deal.
Moderation.
Right? Yeah.
Moderation with everything. And, you know, I think from any fast food documentary we've watched, I think it's probably its own podcast itself. I think the hardest thing in the world is we live in an era where eating unhealthy is cheaper and more efficient for you than eating healthy, because you have to meal prep, you have to go get the food. Like, it's a pain in the ass.
You know, I think I'm finally starting to have hope again.
Yeah.
That sounds really deep.
That sounds like dark. I like it.
I finally have hope in my life. But, you know, for so long, I think we talk about, like, what happens in our kids' generation or grandkids. Look at the way the world is going. But really, I really thought about it, and I had this conversation with Brittany last night. I was like, I think there are more people now that are really starting to care.
Yes.
And notice what's good for you and getting back to whole foods and getting back to growing their own food, hunting, finding good, you know, non-processed options, watching sugar. And like the real truth, I think, is finally coming out.
I agree.
And people are no longer looking for convenience.
Yes.
And there are obviously still plenty of people that just eat off convenience and they're probably going to reap the negative benefits of like diabetes and whatever else. But I really think that there's a huge movement. And it's part of the reason why, like, we didn't want this thing to be like, you gotta be a man and be tough. It's like, that's also a thing, and it's out there enough.
Exactly.
And it's not new.
No.
When somebody's like, the masses don't understand how to be, like, the masses do understand now. And it really is a popular mainstream thing to do hard things, which is great. And I think it's awesome, which is why we're not trying to be these dogmatic assholes about it. Just be like, hey, cool, you wanna live heavy, here's a place to do it. But I'm having these really great feelings about where the next generations are going.
Where it's going. Absolutely.
Yeah. How are we gonna end this thing? Do we do like a quote? I don't know.
Well, I think it's kind of cheesy.
All right. So how about skull?
Skull.
2 strong dudes.
2 strong dudes.
Check it out.
1.
And sorry if you missed half of our conversation for whatever reason. And cue the music.
Cue the music. 9 minutes. Solid. See, that was good.